everybody. This is your story, my inspiration podcast, and I am Rosine, your host, with Daniel, co-host. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you for having me back.
I am glad that you joined, and I'm so grateful for all the support. So, yeah, let's dive into it and spread the wisdom here. So, today is second part of genocide awareness. But before we dive into the sensitive topic again, I would like just to check in with my people back home in Rwanda, where we are commemorating genocide against Tutsi, where we remember our loved ones. How are you doing? Allow yourself to feel the way you're feeling. Just don't get stuck. And I'm sure there are so many help out there across the country. So don't hesitate to reach out if you really need help, if you don't feel okay. And allow yourself just to be yourself. But again, komera, ihangane, uriho, kandi ubereho abawe wabuze. Shifting gears, Daniel, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about the Holocaust, the genocide against the Jews during World War II. During the event where Rosine spoke a few weeks back, the genocide awareness event, there was actually a Holocaust survivor who shared her story. She was just a young girl, 4 or 5 years old, when she went through the atrocities of the Holocaust, and it was really heartbreaking to hear her story. As she spoke, you could hear sniffles through the audience of the people just weeping as she shared her story. It was really heartbreaking. So we're going to talk about just a little bit about her story. We're going to talk about the origins of the Holocaust, how everything started, the ideology that went behind it, and then the execution of the final solution, talking about you know Hitler's plan to eradicate the Jews.
Again, it's a sensitive topic, and I have to warn you all the time because some people might be triggered or something, but so that you know, it's stories like real people who lost their lives and went through stuff as I shared in my story too. So just stay tuned. It's gonna be a short clip. Please stay tuned. 90 minutes only, and we get back just talking through about like her experience and stuff and seeing how things went. The question is genocide preventable? Can we prevent the horrific stuff across the world to happen? Because it's been like so many genocides across the world and things repeat themselves. So stay tuned. It's just a clip of 90 minutes and we get back like just talking about it. Thank you.
Oh, be mindful though. Sorry about the audio quality. So just bear with us through the audio quality of this video. Um, it's really insightful to listen to.
Also, if you have comments or insight, like you are welcome to drop any comment there. And of course, it's a platform to build trust, to build hope, and you are welcome if you have something kind. If you are curious about something but offensive or you know, just if you don't have something like that is really kind, please. But if you really were curious about stuff and you have like insight, or if you know a story or anything that you think that would contribute to this series of genocide awareness, please don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Drop a comment. Thank you.
I was 4 years old when we went into concentration camp. I was 8 years old when we managed to be liberated. I was a refugee again in um, in um, Bavaria in a displaced persons camp. Um, what I would like to tell you about is that we were waiting to be sent to concentration camp. We knew the day was coming. And one day, right around dawn, the door was kicked open, and my mother was frantically trying to dress me in as much stuff as we had. We had driven, we had feared and pain, and they dragged us out down the stairs with using their rifle butts to encourage us to move a little faster, though we couldn't really move much faster. And many old people were in that building. We had a one-room apartment with no bathroom, and we had a communal kitchen, and all the women took turns cooking there. We had nothing in our room except beds, and that's where I lived until I was 4. And after that, I heard that we were going to be transported. Everybody was talking about it, buzzing about it. It was pretty awful. My mother was so terrified. She tried to take her life. My uncle came and stopped her. And the thought of taking a little child into something like that was too much for her. So what happened was the day that they dragged us out, there was army trucks waiting, and they lined us up 2 by 2 in long, long lines waiting to get on the trucks. And the ones that had babies that were nursing, babies that were hungry, the screaming and crying, those were the ones that were beaten with the rifle butts. And the older people couldn't get up onto the truck. So they were beaten to encourage them to. And we finally on the truck, and it was like so crowded. It was unbelievable. And they put us into cattle cars that still had the remains of the cattle in them. The smell was incredible, and it was still wet with urine and still full of cattle poop. I'm trying to be polite about it. And it was quite an ordeal. And we stood in that cattle car with no facilities for 3 days, driving across snow. We didn't know where we were going or what was going to happen to us. I was terrified. I was glad my mother was there, but I'm short now. I was really tiny and I couldn't see what was going on at all, and I was crying and upset. And my mother said, "Don't be afraid. You're with me, and you're with your grandmother and grandfather and uncle, and we will not be separated. Don't be frightened." Finally, at 3 days, we came to a halt with lots of screeching brakes and things from the train, and just to breathe fresh air. My mother managed to get me off the train, which was so crowded, and we were filthy with our own urine and our own feces, and there was no restroom or anything. And as we were led outside, um, the Germans, realizing how disgusting we were, hosed us down with cold water. It was very, very cold there in Czechoslovakia. That's where we were. We were going to Theresienstadt, which is the name of the prison that we were in. And as they hosed us down, the clothes froze on our backs, and it was quite cold and miserable. And I couldn't get enough of the fresh air, and I kept breathing it in and breathing it in. And I was so glad when we finally came to a stop. Then I realized, as little and as young as I was, they were separating the men from the women. And they made various lines, and we were not going to a death camp like Auschwitz. We were going to a work camp, a model camp, where there was a big sign, Arbeit macht frei, which means work makes you free. Um, as we were not a death camp, we didn't have the ovens, and we didn't have the gas chambers, but we did have soldiers with machine guns. Anyway, when we got off the train, the SS were on the roof of the train, pointing machine guns at us, as if we were going to escape. Some hope was that. And after that, we were inspected. We were lined up again. My mother was here, my grandmother was here, I was in the middle. I managed to fade in behind him, just carrying my little teddy bear. And he's very old. I still have him. He lives on my dresser. He's very old. He's about 100. Um, anyway, I had him with me the whole time, and I still have him. So that's neither here nor there. I'm digressing, I know. And so we were put on some more trucks and taken to out under the sun into the camp, and that's where we were put into this huge hole, and with triple tier bunks. And my grandmother was on top, my mother was on the bottom, and I was supposed to be in the middle. There were no mattresses or anything. We got a very thin blanket that had been somebody's before us. It wasn't thick or anything, it was just worn out. And so we spent the first night there, and there was lots of babies crying and a lot. Then they came again, 5 o'clock. We had to be on the parade ground, and we had to have breakfast. And breakfast consisted of a cup of coffee. Starbucks wouldn't have it, and it was some debris floating in it, and a slice of bread. If you're lucky, it wasn't moldy or stale. That was breakfast. And then they took some more people and put them on the train, and those were going to Auschwitz. Those were mothers nursing babies. Those were old people who couldn't work. Those were sad people. And we never, of course, saw them again, and lived in that hall. And it was pretty horrendous, since children were not allowed there, and I was 4. I was gonna be 5 in the camp, but I was 4 at the time. Since children couldn't work and were useless, very useless, they were just sent to Auschwitz and terminated. We felt terrible. I had to hide. My mother every single day had to tell me. She had to go to work. She worked in a factory making windshields for German warplanes. And she worked 18 hours a day, and I never knew if I was going to see her again, or if she would come home that night. People had a tendency to disappear, but she did come home, thank God, because otherwise I don't know what would have happened to me.
We are back here again, and we hope that you really learned something. It was awful. It was not easy to hear. As Daniel mentioned earlier, people were sobbing and crying, and it's just not easy to hear. But we are here to talk about stories. We are here to share and just learn from each other. So Daniel, can we just go about like how all this it started and origins and stuff?
Sure. Um, so the Holocaust was the genocide against the Jews during World War II. It was led by the leader of the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, and it lasted during the time frame of World War II, which was back in the 1940s, ending in 1945. 6 million Jews were murdered, plus millions of Roma, disabled people, and political prisoners, all put in these concentration camps and either put to work, killed. So many people died. It was driven. The ideology behind it was anti-Semitism, just racist ideology, and the pursuit of a pure Aryan race, and that kind of twisted thinking really drove people to do horrible things. And it ended because the Allied forces, the U.S., Britain, and the Soviet Union, they during World War II intervened and put a stop to the atrocities. Um, Researching for this video, the people who were in the concentration camps, they were in disbelief. They thought they were never going to get out. So when they heard that people were there to help, that Britain had arrived at Auschwitz or some of these other facilities, they were just in disbelief. They thought they were dreaming, and it took a while to to get back normal, if that's even possible.
Maybe to share a little bit of that disbelief. It's I'm not gonna compare two genocides because they're different, but also there are some similarities. You know, when you don't have hope for anything, like there is no hope. You are in a concentration camp, and of course, if they heard that Britain, God, they are there to save them. Same back in Rwanda, where when the army took over, and the first thing that they were telling people is like, "You're not gonna die. Not today. We got you." And
Right.
yeah, that was the very first thing that they would tell to people when they got the area, the spot, the neighborhood. Hey, don't you worry, you're not gonna die today. No,
Mhm.
we got it. So it's like somebody doesn't have hope at all to, okay, life is there.
Right.
Okay, I'm saved. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Hmm.
Um, After the war, there were trials held to hold some of the people accountable for leading the genocide, for some of the horrible things that were done. Definitely not everybody was tried and held accountable, um, but some people were, and some people were put to death because of it. Um, so many normal people were involved, just people, neighbors of the Jews, who were victim to this atrocity. Like, um, their friends or neighbors received a badge, became SS members, and um, were given orders, and because they were following orders, committed some horrible things. Um, So, starting again, just talking about the origins and how it got to that point. Hitler rose to power in 1933, almost 10 years before World War II started. He started implementing policies that isolated the Jews. He made it illegal for German people to intermarry with Jews. But I do know that it was illegal to marry and illegal to have like sexual relations uh, with a Jew if you were German, yeah, with others. Um, the Nuremberg laws, they stripped Jews of citizenship. So you're right, yeah. They banned intermarriage. They limit jobs and education. Um, World War II began, and Jews were forced into ghettos um, with the intention of starving them, putting them in poor living conditions, and just putting them in horrible, horrible situations. It was crowded, unsanitary, and there were scarce resources. So they were put there with the intention of giving them horrible living conditions and eventually leading to death. Um, when it started, it was mostly mass shootings. They were pulled out of their homes and
Wow.
taken into surrounding areas and killed by not prisoners, by soldiers. And eventually it developed into a systematic and factory like execution of the Jews. Um, and the reason that it was done this way is to be more efficient. They thought that by taking the personal act of one person doing the whole execution, pulling people out of their homes, shooting them, they saw that that was hard for the soldiers to do. So they wanted to make it easier for the murderers to commit these murders. So the way they did it was um, separating it out into sections
Wow.
and turning it into factory like work. So one person would gather people from their homes, another group of people would put them on the trains, another group of people would admit them into the concentration camps, another group of people would pull the lever on the gas chamber, and they were put into these situations just based on a horrible wrong ideology. um, they um, they were eventually deported to extermination camps Auschwitz, Treblinka, and they were sent there with the intention of killing them, sent to gas chambers, disguised as showers. They thought that they, after finally getting off of a train, living in filth, and thought they were going to go get clean, they escorted them into this chamber, thinking they were going to get clean, and instead they gassed them and killed them all. Um, and those are the execution camps. There were also labor camps. They were forced into labor under brutal conditions, and leading to death by exhaustion and starvation. Those pictures of the prisoners of the concentration camps after being saved by the British and Allied forces. They're infamous. They're so widely known just based on how unrecognizable those people are, um, as people. They wouldn't look like we do. They were so skinny, ribs showing, just put in horrible conditions. And the fact that people um, survived and made it through that, and the strength that it took to get through that, and the strength that it took to create a life after. It really is a blessing from God that they were able to make it through. Um,
The stupid meme when Margaret said that her mom was going to work every single day. I didn't think it was forced labor. I was like, oh, at least they could make some money. And no. So after doing all this research and now you just mentioned it, no, it wasn't job to get money. Labor for free, and letting like leaving your daughter of 3 4 years in home, like not home, concentration camp by herself, just to only go work all day long for zero, free of charge, all money.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
essentially slavery.
yeah,
It
slavery.
was horrible.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was driven by some horrible and wrong ideologies, conspiracy theories, and just hatred, dehumanization geared toward the Jewish people.
Mm. I was gonna say also, just to get back to the root program ideology. It's you. The word itself, it doesn't even have a lot of syllables, but it's a very dangerous vocabulary and pretty big and huge because people who have brains and heart can be turned into animals, can be turned into murderers, can be turned into the worst kind of. Because if myself and Daniel are neighbors, for example, it's easy to come and tell us, "Ah, do you see Daniel? He's tall, and he's making a lot of money. So he's taking your dreams of stuff like the way people are taught to hate others, from simple things to the point where you see your neighbor and you look like, I'm gonna, like, even people who really are smart, the ideology turned them like into blind and they follow the orders like sheep. So like
Sure, and these are things that are instilled into these people from a very young age. They were taught these things that were wrong and created a twisted image of this person, their neighbor, somebody who maybe they spent time with, in their mind, so they don't see them as a person. They see them as this horrible thing that they've invented, that they've been taught that is wrong. They were in the Holocaust, the anti-Semitism against the Jews was was driven by conspiracy theories, by racist ideology. They were blamed for economic crisis, conspiracy theories that Jews were planning to take over the world, putting themselves in high power positions. Um, but even at that same time, they were um, they were called inferior. They were less than, and they were labeled as dangerous to Aryan superiority. Um, they were accused of promoting democracy and communism and modernization, essentially threatening the way, accused of threatening the way of life for the Nazi German. And with that, just an example of how this type of twisted ideology doesn't make any sense. Hitler himself did not live up to the image of the superior Aryan race that he was kind of spouting off and trying to create an idealized, vision of the 6 foot tall, blue
Blue
eye,
eyes.
blonde hair,
Yeah.
light skin. He was a short man with brown hair and brown eyes, um, and he hated so many people. He hated, um, yeah, he just was full of hate, and he pushed that and created a a society, a system of government that pushed people and turned normal people into monsters.
All right. Without getting too deep, I think the main point here is to understand. Let's see. Let's twist things here. If ideology was used positively, the world would be paradise. The world would be so progress and developed. Because if people are able to turn others into murderers, into horrible beings to kill others, how about if ideology was positive? Turning things in a positive way, we would have a paradise in this world. But unfortunately, ideologies that have been implemented in so many ways during genocides that across the world turned people into the worst kind, and that's how we got like so many genocides across the world. Did you have any other message, or are we getting to?
I think um, it's just promoting right ideology. That is very important. Recognizing when dangerous ideology is being spread. Um, pushing people to hate another group because I know that anti-Semitism is still out there. People say the same things that they were saying back then. Um, you know, pushing conspiracy theories. Um, and they say things, um, you know, not the same thing, but similar things, demonizing other groups, and that type of thinking, that type of ideology, is dangerous. And just recognize when you're hearing it. I think that is a huge deterrent. Um, just using your brain, just recognize the person next to you, created in the image of God, as or even if you don't believe that, as another human being, you know, um, imperfect as you are, making the same mistakes as you, born and raised as a baby, has a mother and a father. It's a person. So recognize that dangerous ideology when it's around you, when you hear it. Use your brain and your heart, and when you see something um, being done wrong, if you're being told to do something wrong, and you know it's wrong, um, stick to your morals. You know, do the right thing.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for walking us through all this. And I feel like it's easy to hate somebody, but also it's easy to love, right? Because when you recognize that yourself, you are a person, you breathe red. Nobody breathe differently. You breathe. You like all the stuff that you have as a human being. The other one also have that. So maybe getting to wrapping up this conversation and stuff, I would like to say that okay, let me ask you a question. After this whole conversation, from part one, where we talked about genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda, the ideology, Rochi's name calling, dehumanization, to Jews genocide, you guys, do you think genocide is preventable? Do you think we can prevent horrific stuff to happen in this world? Killings, mass killing. What do you think? Drop a comment and Please let us know what you think. But all I can say, it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to be anywhere else in this world. Because speaking from experience, speaking from hearing all the others' experience that were together on that panel, no, it is just like huge damage, and it takes a while. It could be after 1,000 years, but generation. My kids will probably, in the future, notice that I have something I'm missing in my life, or I have a story to tell, and they would want to know why I commemorate in my home country, why I don't have cousins or grandpa or something. I will have to tell the story. So, uh, the moral lesson here is that it takes really, it's the consequences are really so huge and not easy to erase. Getting to the closure of this episode, I just want to thank you guys. I can't thank you enough. Subscribers, new ones, shout out. I can't go through names right now, but thank you for subscribing and spreading the good news and message of hope, and making sure that people are informed. One last thing, of course, share this one too. And if you haven't yet subscribed, then please do so. And um, next time it's gonna be another one. Maybe Yugoslavia or Rohingya. I'm still putting information together, but stay tuned and don't miss out, please. Yep. We appreciate you.
Yep. We definitely appreciate you.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye.
Lord Jesus, please be with us today as we talk about the